Hey everybody, today I'm going to review Raphael's rigging reel from the perspective of a lead or a supervisor working in the animation industry and what I'd typically look for in an artist rigging reel. So let's watch it first and then I'll give some feedback. Pretty sweet. Let's say overall it has a lot of really cool components of things you do want to put into a rigging reel. For example, you have lots of stuff inside Maya showing, breakdowns of your rigs, which is cool. Some stuff on the face, facial rigging, some renders, and stuff like muscle as well. But I want to say, from my experience, the first thing I do when I watch a reel, a lot of the time I have 20 or 30 reels to go through in a day, so I don't typically watch the whole thing from start to finish. What I'm doing is I'm skimming through it like this. I'm looking for stuff that catches my interest, and a lot of the time it's stuff inside Maya because I want to see that you understand what you're doing when you're actually rigging things inside Maya. So seeing these breakdowns is really important. I'd say at best, really, I'm looking at maybe 30 seconds from start to finish. So you want to make sure your first 30 seconds is your strongest work. And I think this is pretty cool. Your muscles and skeletons is cool, but it's for a specific type of company, I'd say you want to put this in for. You wouldn't want to have your muscle and skeleton stuff in here for, say, like a cartoon focused company. This is more for, big VFX houses where muscle and skeleton are actually part of like the process for us, the rigging pipeline. For the most part, I wouldn't worry about putting this stuff in unless you're applying for a big VFX studio like ILM or DNEG or someone like that. So I would incorporate this, but maybe in two separate reels. You have one for cartoon animation houses and then one for VFX houses. I'd probably include this stuff in any submissions for VFX houses. So I'd have two different reels. And it'd be the same thing for the facts at the end. I think this is really cool, honestly. Good understanding of how the face would move around and the control structure to support that. This is looking very professional. But again, you probably wouldn't need to have this if you're applying for a cartoony studio. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, it's cool that you have this render at the start. I think renders are very important and they help make your reel look pretty professional. But what I'd want to have straight away is exactly what you're doing in this clip, like what part you had in the making of this clip. So yeah, it's a short clip, which is great. I'd want to see down the bottom, maybe in like a black box, consistently across the whole reel, actually not just in the render, but what you did in each different clip you've put together. Not having, groups of text all over the screen, but keeping it more uniform and organized just down the bottom inside a black box, listing what you've done. Yep, so this you'd put like you did the rigging or you did the cloth simulation or different things like that, but you make it very clear straight away so I can tell what you've worked on. I don't have to go to a different point in your reel to understand what you were doing, just to make it super clear. Cool. The fact you put in rig building stuff is awesome. I want to see this in every reel, ultimately, for a rigger, to show that you understand code, you know, like you've also done this UI. And talk about it, you know, talk about how you made the UI. Is it using PyQt? Is it using just classic Maya commands? And then, yeah, it's a bit of a breakdown past just, you know, a rig builder, what you've done to make this builder. It's cool showing setup and things like that, but maybe a bit more about yeah, what it actually does, and maybe a breakdown of different parts, different yeah, parts of the rig to show how it moves around and what you've actually done in terms of constructing the rig through code. Okay, this is cool as well. I want to point out that you have a good idea of control philosophy. You know, you have red for right side and you have blue on the other side. That's typically industry standard, and then yellow in the middle. But what caught my eye is after that, we have this clip here where you have all these controls as yellow, which is not standard. So I'm just wondering why this has been put in here. Especially here as well, we have some fingers that have yellow controls and some fingers that have green controls. You want to make sure that all controls are the same color if it's on one side of the body. And, you know, icing on the cake might be to make these main arm controls a slightly different color. Animators want to make sure that, or they love having a very clear understanding of what parts of the body they're going to be moving around. So if these are the main controls, these circles here, maybe a slightly different color, and then all the finger controls are a consistent red color, for example, for the right side. And also I saw this cross here. Nothing wrong inherently with the cross, but it does scream auto rig builder, like a third party commercial rig builder. When I see the cross, I think advanced skeleton or rapid rig or something like that. So me personally, I wouldn't have pluses or crosses as main settings controls around the arm. I'd change that to a different control. It's just something that I'd probably bring up in the interview. I would say, you know, why is this cross here? Did you use an auto rigger for it? And then I'd probably want you to explain, you know, more in detail how you've constructed the rig to make sure it's not that way. This is cool. I like seeing like you're preserving volume through these extra helper joints on the back. It's cool to add in there. And now you've added in, you know, rig cloth, that you've done that for your movie. This is cool. Just, I would make sure to organize it down the bottom a bit better. Okay, this cloth setup is cool, but you want to make sure, because what happens in dailies and in front of the director when you're in a company is they're going to start scrutinizing all these small little ripples and pinching and shearing around here. You can see on the shirt, there's like these artifacts appearing as, you know, you get more motion. And it's definitely something that would get called out by the director. You want to make sure that this is smoothed out. You don't have crashing, you don't have pinching. It's difficult with cloth, obviously, but you want to make sure it's as clean as possible, the base of the simulation. And typically this is nice to have, but most of the time for, you know, cartoon animation studios, you're not going to be doing the CFX. CFX is more reserved to, you know, big VFX houses like ILM, where you would be doing rigging in CFX under the creature TD role. So that's more sort of a VFX studio type of composition, you know, rigging and CFX together. I mean, I'd say there's nothing wrong with having some CFX in there, but I'd just say, yeah, clean it up a bit. I'd say it's not hurting having it in your reel, but just make sure it's looking nice. Stitch is cool. I like how you're stretching the rig and showing its range of motion. Watch out for the pinching around here. I can see, you know, top of the leg, it's starting to crash a bit. Maybe think about adding some correctives so it's smooth in all those different extreme positions. Animators are going to definitely be pulling around your rig as much as they can to make sure it's not breaking, and you just want it as flexible as it can be when you come into, you know, shot work where animators have to really bend the rig position and mold into positions that are going to work for the shot. So it's cool stuff. Really cool that it could scale globally. Animators are always scaling the rig to make sure it works for the shot that they're working on. I see constantly they want to grab everything and fit it into this small position, and then the next shot they want to cheat it so it's twice the size. So I would say all rigs make sure we have a scale so they can be scaled. It's great showing off face rigging as well. I'd say every reel should have some face rigging in it for rigging. But what I'd say is in professional rigs rather, look at my Azula rig or other rigs that are very popular out there. You'll see that you know, controls are more attached to the surface. They're not standing out as much. It's harder for animators to know exactly what control is going to move what part of the body. I can see on the, you know, the right side here, the blue controls are quite off the surface. I'd want to make sure they're more attached to the surface and affecting a more localized position, so animators know exactly what controls to be pulling around to get certain motion. And I also wouldn't make them circular. I would probably make them spheres. So when animation have to rotate controls a certain way, they're not going to sort of lose that control in a certain angle. They're always going to be able to see it. It's always visible depending on how it's rotated. So yeah, closer to the skin, I'd say, for all these. And then it's cool how you have red and blue as well, and yellow in the middle. I would also add a lookout control, which is very industry standard. Just a control that comes out the front of the character for animators to quickly position the eyes. They'll sort of, a lot of the time, attach the control to another character. They'll have a space switch where they'll make sure it's following another character, and the eyes will automatically follow that position. You want to make sure you have that in your rig, because they will definitely ask for it. Okay, T-Rex, this is cool. It's more sort of photoreal rigging now. I want to make sure that you stay consistent with the colors of your controls. Right now you're going to a different control scheme altogether. You have some green, some orange in there. Just make sure you're consistent across the reel. So you have the red as right, blue as the left, and yellow as the middle. I would scrap the FK on the back for the tail. I'd say it's a given if you're applying for a professional rig position that you can do IK and FK controls. So I would cut out this and shorten your reel through not having this. The next part though is cool. This sine wave. I'd say it's not used too much. I haven't really seen animation use the sine, the tail too much. It might be added on occasion, but for the most part, rigs professionally don't have this by default. This is more just to, you know, showcase what you can do, which is cool. But professionally, it's not something I see used too much. And also see the prefix for your control, how it has control at the front of the name. I would put that at the back. The suffix is more industry standard, and I would put the side at the front. So, you know, C wave tail control or L wave tail control, just for consistency, and it looks more professional that way as well. I like this a lot. I actually had this in my first reel, something similar. It's like a rivet cast system or something like that. Straight away, this control looks a bit unprofessional at the top. I would color it with a yellow or something like that, so it's not just the basic default color that Maya gives you. This is cool. I like this as well. I would say occasionally to break the code, which I told you about, which is putting all the text at the bottom. I like this full screen dynamic system you have here. Only one parameter to make it alive. This is really cool. I'll just stick this on here and then go back to the regular format. It's nice. Maybe put some type of breakdown of the nodes you've used to construct this. I'm always looking for artists that actually can break down what they're doing through the system they've created. It's not just showing high level what the rig looks like, but they're actually going into the underlying structure. So if you have something that's quite clean in the node editor you can show off, I'll just chuck a little box in there somewhere as well and show us the thinking behind this system. Oh, also, I want to say I like how you put the black on the wheel there to indicate how quickly it's rotating and if it's sort of contacting with the ground. That's also what you'll see a lot in car rigs when you're using it professionally. The animator is going to ask for some type of color differentiation so they can tell if the wheels are moving at a fast speed and if they're contacting with the ground properly. And yeah, the fax, like I talked about, is looking really cool. I would probably just put this in a separate reel that you would give to big VFX houses. Awesome, man. Yeah, I think overall it's a really good reel. Just some things to do to tidy it up, but I think it has all the components of something that would definitely be able to get you an entry-level position. But just go ahead and start working on some of those things that I've given you, and I think it's going to look great in no time, honestly. There's some really cool stuff in here. Cool. Yeah, so if anyone else has a reel they want me to look over, I'm going to leave a form in the comments. So feel free to chuck in your reel or a rig you want me to review, and I'll gladly do that as well. Cool, guys. See ya.